Alright guys, we're going to jump right into it. This is basically what you see right when you open up the app. You'll see all the projects they kind of included with it. This one was just experimental. I wanted to play with it to kind of learn the rundown. This is my very first animation. So we're just going to jump into this one. This is mine. And what we'll see here is all the features. So basically, this first one we're going to go into is we're going to go into the project, and it's going to show you all the properties like the frames per second. You can choose the anime, cinema, television, frame by frame, all these different options. You can choose what duration you want. Say if you want it to be a 20-second animation, you can do that. You can change the width, the height, of course made by me, Brian Vasquez. The stage, the onion skins blend primary frame, the timeline. This is how you want to share it. You can choose it as a video like I did earlier. Also for the custom settings, you can choose the format. You also have these options. You can choose the document size. If you want really good resolution, you're going to want to choose 4K if you have that option. And then also the audio feature format. And then you can choose the left or right brush size. Also add keyframe at start, enable painting with finger. I should turn this off. I kept hitting the screen over and over and it kept reading my finger. So you might want to turn this off if that's going to annoy you, because it also read my hand a lot, which really bugged me and it took me out of the tool that I was using at the time. Store undo steps. Now the cool thing about store undo steps, check this out. So say I'm going to my drawing layer, which is right here. So say I'm going to the drawing layer and I'm using the black, and say I want to add something like a little detail, right? So in Procreate, if you're a Procreate user, you go back and you accidentally close the app, that is still going to be there in Procreate, and you have to go in and erase it or whatever you have to do, right? Well, check this out. You don't even have to do that. Now I have the option to go back when it's already been closed, press undo, and it goes away. That's freaking awesome. Okay, let's get to learning this app, or at least giving you the main features. I plan to do a deep dive later on if requested. So here we go. So first of all, these are the tracks. These lines right here, they're all separate tracks that you can add right here. Photos, or you can add a video, or you can add text, or you could add a certain file, maybe like a music file right in here, because you also add music files in these tracks. So these tracks are for files or images or videos or drawings, right? We're going to go to a track. We're going to go to a track. So how do you start a track? Where do you get started? Well, you basically go to an empty track. This is a track, right? And this is also what you're going to be using to go down your timeline. This is the timeline right here, right? This is 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, 4 second, right? Mine happens to be, I'm going to zoom out. You can zoom out with your finger. It happens to be about 11 seconds. So zoom back in. You can also choose to make these bigger or make it smaller, right? There's another way to do that. I haven't figured it out. I'm still learning this, right? And I already have a few hours in, and I'm still learning little things. So here's a track. Let's choose it. We're going to go to the beginning. Now we're going to go to the drawing. This is the drawing area, right? And we're going to say we just choose to draw something else on her hair, right? Maybe we want different details that we want to add. So that's one drawing, right? Now, say we want to change that. We want to add another frame to that drawing. How do we do that? Well, let's bring this down. And we have a flip book feature right here. That automatically, once you bring that down, a flip book automatically comes up. You don't have another drawing. So what do you want to do? Well, hit that button, hit a plus, and I want to add another frame. So you're going to hit the plus button. Now you have a plus button. Now what is this? Why does it show it in pink? Well, here, we'll go to the timestamp, and I don't know why it is right here. That's a feature hopefully they change. We'll go to the timestamp. Where do you find that feature? Why is it pink? Well, it's right here, the stage options. So that's the hide onion skin. We can choose to hide it, but in animation, you're not going to want to do that. You're going to want to always have an option to see it. Now, you got the background color. You also have the edit onion skin. Let's go to edit onion skin. Now, this is the color you can choose for your onion skins. This is basically the drawing that we had on the frame before. That is this, what's in this frame right here, the one before, right? So we have that as, say, let's put it at lavender. Oh, let's put it back to purple. So it's a purple color, right? And then that's for the drawing before. Now the drawing ahead will go to forwards. That's going to be a blue color. You can also change the opacity and how many frames you want, right? Which is how many frames right here you want to see. And you'll see also how many frames right here. Remember, that pink is the drawing before, right? See how that turns black as soon as I go to that frame? Now the next frame there's nothing there, right? It's only showing like the shadow, right, of the drawing before. Now say we want to maybe move around that hair a little bit. Maybe it's kind of flowing up. And this is just a rough drawing. I'm just playing around, right? We're just doing that now. We're just flipping that hair up. Now you go this, right? And then it's there. So then, okay, we want to change it again. We're going to add another frame. So now we're animating, right? See? Now you see the 2 frames before. You're seeing both of these right up here on your new empty frame. And then now you're going to want to maybe move it up a little bit more, right? A little bit more. And again, we're just being rough. We're just showing you how it works, right? So now you see these right here. Now let's add another frame. Now you see all the last 3 drawings that we did very lightly. And you can remember, you can go back here and you can change that opacity if you want, right? Let's make it darker. So then it's a little darker, right? It helps you out. So let's go right here on the timeline. Let's just watch these silly little drawings. It's so quick, you can't even see it. And this is why animation is kind of a nightmare, because what you did is just so quick. You can choose to elongate now. Now here's where we find out how this all works. Now, what if I want to make that longer? What if I want to make that drawing last a little bit longer? Well, you can choose to move these down. You can hold it, move it down a little right here. Now this is a painful process. I hope there's another quicker way that they figure out how to do this. But say you want this to last more seconds or longer, right? And then you want to do the same to that, right? Say you want to move a bunch of things at the same time though, right? Well, there's one way to do that. Choose both of them. They're going to highlight in red, right? Now you're going to hold this, and then you have a choice to group them. Now you can group them, and then you only have one to move, which is right here, right? So there we go. We just kept it as is right there, and now you see a little bit better those little changes, right? So that's how you do simple animating, and you just basically continue on and on. Here's another feature though. So now one of the biggest features you're going to be using all the time is going to be the edit button. So each drawing, or like say a different drawing, a different frame, see how that bug is moving, and say I had to color that bug individually, right? Well, look at the frame beneath it. There's a cut right here, right? There's an edit right there. So go down. There's also going to be a similar edit right here, right? That's that same edit. Now I had to edit that individually on its own. So you're going to be making those cuts. I had to do that individually. I had to go in here and I had to make an edit, and that's called a split, right? You basically, all these little individual lines right here are a split. That's a split right there. That's a split right there. That's a split right there. And that's how you're going to get those different edits where you have to now color in. Let me get an example. So like a good example is the lighting. See how the lighting matches those splits? They're all the same because it's a different lighting scenario now. So I had to make a split right here and repaint it differently right there. See, there's a difference. That's a different split. I had to paint that, and then the bug moves, and then there's another split right here, right? So I had to repaint it. I had to change it a little bit, right, from the last painting. And you see this dark pink right here? That basically is where the rest of the lighting was before I made that slight change in the frame before. So this pink right here is what's missing, right? That's the lighting that was there before. So I erase it so you know exactly what frame you're following, right? I hope that makes sense. So remember, these are all splits, And in order for all these different lighting and colors to match up with your lines, right, with your drawings up here, you're gonna have to make the same splits up here. The edit button, so you just press this, you go to move, filter, and edit. The edit is always gonna be your splits. You're always gonna need right here. I'll split it right there. You see? So that split it. And go back, do it again. That's your splits. That's how you split it. So you're always gonna be using the split button. So it's going to be your most important, one of your most important tools. Probably be like the top 2-3 things you do in this app. You're always going to be using it. So don't forget that. One of the most important things you need to know. Say we are animating this little bug right here, right? So I did this bug on the layers, on all in the same layer, which I should have done separately. So I'm going to ungroup that. Now I'm going to go to a layer where it has the bug. I'm going to make it smaller, and I'm going to do a lighter brush. Now you can go back and you have a lot of options for brushes, but I'm going to choose this little pine brush right here that I kind of was using, and I kind of like it. So we are going to start a new track. We're going to start right here, and we are going to add another little bug. Now let's do that right here. Add another little simple bug, right? Now that's on its own track. And the reason why you want to keep each and everything on its own separate track is because you don't want to affect all your other line work or your colors, right? Here's also my colors, right? You see the colors that are being chosen. Now you see the lighting. Now let's turn off that lighting. I also can turn off that lighting. I can choose to erase that lighting if I want. I can choose to add lighting if I want, right? And that's why it's so important, because if you do it all in one layer, it's going to make it so much harder to change. You want to keep it non-destructive. You always want to, that's why digital art is so important, because everything can be non-destructive. It can be on a separate layer, just like with traditional animation, you're doing it on cells. That's why they also do that, so you don't ruin the rest of your work that's already been completed. Say you want to move this bug around. I want to move this bug around. You also have the choice to distort it. You want to play around with it. And this is what's so cool about this. If you don't want to, you can also duplicate this, and say if you don't want to draw it yourself, you can also distort it. Okay, it has a little bounce. I'm going to do that. It's taking off. It's flying away. Woo! You know, right? You can do little effects like that. You can choose to undo it, right? So we're going to go back to move and scale. You can also choose warp, but we're not going to do that right now. You can choose to anchor it to something. You can flip it. Let's move it. So we're going to move it right here. You can choose the recording. You can choose the recording feature, which is really awesome, and it will work for certain subjects. Not everything. It's not going to work. You will have to draw it by hand. But check this out. Say I wanted to move this closer, right? Or I wanted to, say I wanted to just move it around. I can do that. The one thing I haven't grasped yet is how you can control these parameters a little bit better. Again, I'm still learning this, so I don't really know that yet. But let's watch what I did with that. And this is just moving it around, right? It's just moving along the screen. I'm pretty sure you can find ways to figure out how to make that work, and how to control those parameters a little bit more. You also have the option to change the opacity, or change the blur. So check this out. See, we're messing around with the blur and how blurry it is. Now that's really cool when you can kind of figure out like how to play with lighting and how to play with the foreground, right, in the background, whatever it may be, right? So that's always an option too. I'm gonna get into my big gripes about this app. Again, I'm just kind of giving you this short and sweet rundown. So let's go to a painting layer. Let's choose this one, right? And let's go to the shirt layer, right? Let's choose a color. I'm gonna go to the hard brush right here, right? We're gonna bring the opacity all up. Great. I'm painting in right here. Now the problem, say you're doing the whole shirt, right here, right under all these other layers. It's so time consuming. Most artists do not use this method that I know of, right? I follow a lot of artists, and you don't have the option to select all this out, or at least even automatically select like you do in Procreate, and just throw the color in. Now, if you have a really solid line, which these weren't, I tried to throw the color in earlier with this very brush. It didn't work. Now, in Procreate, okay, that's great. The color drop-in doesn't work. The lines aren't thick enough. Well, you can also duplicate the lines, but usually I just do the automatic select, or I can select it out really quick, right? And then just throw the color in. I don't have to individually do that. That was so time-consuming. And let me give you an example of why it's so time-consuming. Each and every one of these different frames, you see, we'll get close up. Every one of these individually, they have these paint layers have to match up the shape of the lines, right? Of these lines. So all these different lines, how they switch up over time. You see how her hair is different right there? It kind of flips up a little bit. Well, that shape changed. So then I also had to change the shape when it came to her hair. Right? So I had to repaint those certain parts again. Now, you can choose to say you don't need to change the shirt and the suspenders. Well, you see how this is kind of like a long frame? I think I messed up a move right here, but see how that's just a long frame? It's not cut. Well, you can choose to either elongate that frame because you don't need to make a new drawing, right? Because she's just standing still. Well, you can just choose to elongate it. You don't need to redraw another drawing for that, right? Try to save yourself time, right? Same thing with that traditional animators do. So you can either elongate it, or you can duplicate it so you don't have to keep redrawing the same thing over and over again. Because even if, say if that pose in those lines are as close to the lines that you already drew, where you can just duplicate that drawing. Say you duplicated it right here. Let's say this is a duplicated drawing. Well, you can just basically erase. You can basically just erase part of that drawing. What you can do with that duplicated frame is just change it up. Change it up slightly so you don't have to draw everything, and you're just slightly changing things, right? And then so it's slightly changed for the next frame. It saves you so much more drawing. So just trying to teach you a little bit about how you can save some time with what I figured out. Look, this is my first animation, and I will show you the animation at the very end. The main things you have to know is how many frames per second are you doing, how long is the animation going to be when you are going to the drawing feature. Flip it up. What drawing are you at? What's the next pose going to be? And remember, say you want your keyframes and you have a pose right here. It's a major keyframe pose. Well, how do you go back and try to fill in those? You just go back to the last drawing and then try to connect one keyframe to the next, right? And you're going to have a bunch of in-between drawings in between that, and that's also going to show on the timeline right here. See, that's the new one that I just included. So there's all those little things that you're going to figure out as you animate. It's going to be frustrating at first, this very short 11-second animation, because I was just having trouble with the app. It took me about 6 hours. So again, it'll be faster next time, right? But it's also the features of not having the lasso and just picking things out, not having a lot of features that Procreate has. Yeah, you can bring in brushes from Procreate. You can do a half screen and just bring those brushes right in Procreate like I did. I brought in the OSHA right here at the bottom. I brought in a star fill. That's how I made the stars right here. So you can bring your brushes too. Yeah, that's great. But that's not my big problem. I could use the brushes if I wanted to, right? I can use these brushes. But it's just not having the lasso and other features that are really frustrating. Also, how I use the clipping mask. So how you mask is you hold that down, and then you find the masking right here, and I don't know if that makes sense to Procreate. For us, it doesn't. It's usually in the layers section, right? Maybe there's a good reason. I'm not thinking, obviously, why that has to be. But I would think, well, if you're on the track and you're on a different track, wouldn't the layers just read that you're on a different track rather than you having to go in here until the app, I want a new mask. You know what I mean? Like it's on a clipping mask. That's how you find your layer mask and your clipping mask. It's just right here in mask. I would want to add in the light, and then, or I would want to go to the layers on this track, somehow add a new layer for the track, or you know what I mean, like a new clipping mask for that track. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just don't like how you have to go into this menu and do that. It just seems like a little, like a split second that you're losing, so it doesn't make for a very quick flow, a workflow, and that's what I do not like. You also have track options in here. You can show all, you can hide things just so you're not concentrating on that. You have your blend mode. So here's also your filters of how you like, if you want to like change your filters, see how this light is changing on there, changing your filters. I'm not the biggest fan of how this was set up. I'm hopefully in different updates, they'll get a lot of feedback from a lot of artists and suggestions, and they will make those changes. Hopefully we don't have to wait too long. I really like this app. I really like how it works. It's just, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of problems with it, and that's why, I'm hoping, if you want artists to use these apps, and this is a big deal to a lot of artists, and I think a lot of artists love it, but I think some of them are disappointed and may not use it as much as they'd like to, because we have these certain problems. It was a really quick rundown, guys. Sorry, I wish I had more experience with it. I will as time goes on, but it's really hard to work like this without the features that I have in Procreate. I get it. It's brand new. I don't want to knock it too much. I still love it. I think you guys should try it, but it does have a lot of issues, and it's so much more time consuming without the certain things like lassos and better selection options and better user interface of, so where to find the clipping masks and whatnot, because right here you only have clear and rename so far in the drawing layers, which is in Procreate you have such a bigger option. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a little long-winded, but with this app, learning a new app, it kind of has to be. Hopefully you learned a little something. I hope you stick around for my little 11-second animation. It's my first animation. I'm very proud of it. It has its problems, but I hope you enjoy it.